Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vande Guru Nisha Bhakta Nisha Nishavatarakan Tat Prakasham Satat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Sangyakam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauda Udaye Pushpavanatau Chitrau Sandau Tamonudau Granthirarambhakori Mangalacharana Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smarana Hoya Vigana Vinashana Anayasa Sapal Nijavanchita Purana Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Dear Vaishnavas, thank you so much for joining. We are reading today Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila chapter 7, entitled Lord Chaitanya in the Five Features. So in the last session, we were talking about text 110 and discussing about the pendulum example, that how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, um, so how first the Vedic culture got corrupted about 5,000 years back, and as the Kali Yuga started, and then came Lord Buddha, and then he negated the scriptures. So, and then came Shankaracharya, and then came the Ramanuja, Madhva, etc. So we discussed this chart in great detail, and that was text 110. So now we will move on to the next verse, which is 111. ब्रह्म शब्दे मुख्य अर्थ कहे भगवान चिद ऐश्वर्य परिपूर्ण अनुरुद्ध समा ब्रह्म शब्दे मुख्य अर्थ कहे भगवान चिद ऐश्वर्य परिपूर्ण अनुरुद्ध saman. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. According to the direct understanding, the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has all spiritual opulences. No one can be equal to or greater than him. Purport. This statement by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The absolute truth is ultimately understood as Bhagavan, partially understood as Paramatma, and vaguely understood as impersonal Brahman. Very nice point. Completely understood as Bhagavan, partially understood as Paramatma, and vaguely understood as impersonal Brahman. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is opulent in all excellence. No one can be equal or greater, no one can be equal to or greater than him. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord, Bhagavad Gita 7.7, where the Lord says, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya, my sarva. Sorry, there's only a partial verse there. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. There are many other verses which prove that the absolute truth, in the ultimate sense, is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Wow, such a beautiful verse explaining about the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada, whenever the word Bhagavan comes, Prabhupada didn't use the word God or Godhead or Supreme. No, Prabhupada, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is the Supreme. He is the Supreme, the cause of all causes, the Master of all masters, a person. He's not some impersonal light or effulgence or some shadow or something. Uh, of all the gods, he's the Godhead, right? There are many gods, many people consider him God, she God, this God, but he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all the opulences. There's no one, and comes in the Namaprad also, to consider names of demigods like Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. It is a Namaprad. That means if one thinks that, one will not be able to make spiritual progress. The other day I was reading 10.8 verse with one of my friends, where also it says, Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravartate, right? I'm the source of everything. From me comes everything. And in this purport, Prabhupada mentions so many other verses, right? So many other verses from Upanishads, from Maha Upanishad, Narayana Upanishad, that he is that Brahmanyo Devaki Putra. He's the Supreme Lord, the son of Devaki. He is the one. Narayanat Brahma Jayate, Narayanat Prajapati Prajayate, Narayanat Indro Jayate, Narayanat Astau Vasvau Jayante, Narayanat Ekadasha Rudra Jayante. From Narayana comes Brahma, from Rudras and Indras and Vasus and this and that. Anyone and everyone. Ultimately, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. There are so many verses. He is the one who is complete in all opulences. He's in all attributes, in all qualities, in all Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashriya, Jnana Vairagyasya, Shannam Bhaga iti Gana. Bhagavan, he's full of unlimited six opulences. And there, as Prabhupada is saying, there are many, many other verses which talk about, his absolute truth. And interestingly, this is also we have discussed many, many times that the Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan aspect. So I'll just quickly open that also, since it's such a important point. In that table, which many of you may have seen. Okay, found it. Share my screen quickly. The three features of absolute truth: the Brahman realization, the Paramatma realization, and the Bhagavan, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the topmost, right? It's a personal form of the Lord. So, as Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport, which is, maybe I'll add that in this table. So, ultimate understood. Like if someone has completely understood the Supreme Lord, then the Bhagavan aspect they understand. Partially understood, so it's not wrong. Paramatma is there. Yes, he's present in everyone's heart. He's present in Andantarasta Paramanushayantara, but it's partial. It's not complete. Like if someone I call, let's say Ravi Prabhu, as human being. That's correct, but that's not the complete understanding of his all his attributes, his it's not a personal way. If I call, oh, human being, come here, that's correct, but that's not complete. And it's more vaguely if I say like, okay, oh, living entity, can you come here? That's correct, living entity, but you're referring to a cat, you're referring to a dog, you're referring to a human here. It's even less specific, right? So that's the impersonal Brahman understanding. So therefore, devotees call the Lord with the personal name Govinda, Madhava, Keshava, Yashodanandana, Gopijana Vallabha, Rama, etc. But Paramatma understanding, oh, God is everywhere. Yes, He's omniscient, omnipotent. And then the Brahman, He's inconceivable. Okay, who are we referring to? Yes, He's inconceivable. Who are we referring to? Oh, He's the supreme light. This is the analogy of the sun, right? The sun rays, the sun globe, and the sun God. So the devotees, the bhaktas, they worship the Lord in the personal understanding or Bhagavan understanding. And their destination is back home, back to Godhead, through the process of devotional service or bhakti, the Navdha bhakti. Any comments here? Anyone has? Okay, let's go to the next verse, text 112. Anyone would like to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I can read. Prabhuji, before reading, so you showed this a table before also in Bhagavatam class earlier. So can you please share this slide in the group? And
Sure, absolutely.
And as well as Bhagavan realization compared to Paramatma and Brahmajyoti, Bhagavan realization where our God is a form, like we worship God as a form. So only Bhagavan realization is we do deity worship. So that is Bhagavan realization.
Mhm. We don't worship God as a form. Actually, when we say God as a form, it's a little bit, like separate. He is that.
He is the God. Okay.
So there's a like interesting play of words, maybe. I know your heart meant that, but the words, as we say, he is non-different from that deity. Or with the devotee is worshiping. It's not that he has he's non-different, basically, right? That's the mood a devotee worships. That Pratima nahi tumi sakshat Brajendra Nandana. You're not just a form or a pratima or kind of some semblance, right? That's some assumption, okay, I'll assume that you are living here. No, he's present, right? Like it's a picture of your son and your son. So the picture is like representation of your son. It's not your son, right? But in this case, it's not just a representation of God, it's the God. There's this difference there, a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, Mataji, yes, very nice.
Thank you. Dhanavat Pranam to all devotees. All wish to Srila Prabhupada. Text 112. তাহারও বিভূতি দেহ সব চিদাকার জিদ্দি ভূতি আচ্ছাদি তারে কহে নিরাকার. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual, including His body, opulence, and paraphernalia. Mayavad philosophy, however, covering his spiritual opulence, advocates the theory of impersonalism. Purport: it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Iswara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has a spiritual body which is full of knowledge, eternity, and bliss. In this material world, everyone's body is just the opposite, temporary, full of ignorance and full of misery. Therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes described as Nirakar, this is to indicate that he does not have a material body like us. Mayavadi philosophers do not know how it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is formless. The Supreme Lord does not have a form like ours, but has a spiritual form. Not knowing this, Mayavadi philosophers simply advocate the one-sided view that the Supreme Godhead or Brahman is formless, Nirakar. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers many quotes from the Vedic literature. If one accepts the real or direct meaning of these Vedic statements, one can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a spiritual body, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Is that big part? Is the purport is big?
Yeah, it's fairly
Okay,
sum up till here, and then one devotee can
so
read.
here in the Brahma Samhita, it says that Krishna is the full of knowledge. Krishna is Satchidananda himself. So his body, his form is not a temporary. So he is a spiritual body. Everything is spiritual. Krishna's everything is spiritual, transcendental body he has. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining here. And but those impersonalists, they think like Krishna is Nirakar, he has no form, but he has form. He is present in that form as a Satchidananda Vigraha. Back to you, Hare Krishna.
Would someone like to complete the purport? Thank you, Mataji. Anyone wants to read from here?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Please.
Hare Krishna, devotees, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 5.1.1, it is said, Punnam adha punnam idam punnat punnam udachyate. This indicates that the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual. For even though he expands in many ways, he remains the same. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhava matta sarvam pravartate. I am the origin of all. Everything emanates from me. Mayavadi philosophers materialistically think that if the Supreme Truth expands himself in everything, he must lose his original form. Thus, they think that there cannot be any form other than the expansive, gigantic body of the Lord. But the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad confirms, Punnamidam Punnat Punnam Udachyate. Although he expands in many ways, he keeps his original personality. His original spiritual body remains as it is. Similarly, elsewhere it is stated, Vichitra Shakti Purusha Purna. Vichitra Shakti Purusha Purana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person, Purusha, has multifarious energies. And the Shatashatara Upanishad declares, Shabriksha Kalakriti Paro Anya Jasmat Prapancha Purivartate Ayam Dharma Abaham Papanudam Bhagesham. He is the original of material creation, and it is due to him only that everything changes. He is the protector of religion and annihilator of all sinful activities. He is the master of all opulences. Shatasharu Upanishad 6.6. Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varanam tamasha parastat. Now I understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the greatest of the great. He is effulgent like the sun and is beyond this material world. Shatashwara Upanishad 3.8. Potim Potinam Paramam Parastat. He is the master of all masters, the superior of all superiors. Shatashwara Upanishad 6.7. Mahan Prabhur Bhai Purusha. He is the supreme master and supreme person. Shatashwara Upanishad 3.12. Parasya Shaktir Bibidhaiva Shruyate. We can understand his opulence in different ways. Shatashwara Upanishad 6.8. Similarly, in Rig Ved, it is stated, Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pushyanti Shuraya. Vishnu is the supreme, and those who are actually learned think only of his lotus feet. In the Prashna Upanishad, it is said, Shaiksham Chakre. He glanced over the material creation. In the Aittreya Upanishad 1.1.1 and 2, it is said, Sha Oikshata. He glanced over the material creation. And Sha Imal Lokan Asrajata. He created this entire material world. Thus, many verses can be quoted from the Upanishads and Vedas, which prove that the Supreme Godhead is not impersonal. In the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13, it is also said, Nittam Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetanam Eko Bahunam Ja Vidadhati Kamam. He is the supreme eternal conscious person who maintains all other living entities. From all these Vedic references, one can understand that this absolute truth is a person and that no one can equal or excel him. Although there are many foolish Mayavadi philosophers who think that they are even greater than Krishna. Krishna is Asamardha. No one is equal to or above him. As stated in the Shatashwara Upanishad 3.19, Aponi pada jabano grahita. This verse describes the absolute truth as having no legs or hand. Although this is an impersonal description, it does not mean that the absolute personality of Godhead has no form. He has a spiritual form, and that is distinct from the forms of matter. In this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clarifies this distinction. Hare Krishna. So here, Mahaprabhu was making that point to Prakashananda Saraswati, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is spiritual. Everything, his body, his opulence, his paraphernalia, everything is spiritual. And what does it mean actually? It means, Prabhupada explained here, that everything is Purnam. Even he converts himself so many Vishnu, but he is still Purnam. He is not like, there were no like laws of anything, like any of his parts of his body or his paraphernalia. So that's one point. In the first from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, Prabhupada mentioned that even though he expands, but he is not losing anything. He is the same. And then Prabhupada gave so many actually example from different, mainly Shatashwara Upanishad. He stated that why the Supreme, the Upanishad mentioned that he is the greatest of the great. He is beyond this material world. He is the master of the master. He is the superior. Everything happening because he is the cause of everything. Like we can understand that what is the cause means. Because Krishna wanted, then Balaram appeared in Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, what Balaram did, he actually did the service to Krishna. If you remember, we read that in the first or second, I think in the third or fourth, where it is saying that Balaram actually, I think in this chapter also we read that Balaram becomes the throne of Krishna. He was the umbrella of Krishna. He was the bed of Krishna. So he manifested, Balaram manifested in different ways. Even we read that Mata Pita, Shojja, Bhojan, all these things are also coming. Mata Pita, like his parents are also expansion from the Balaram. So, but Krishna didn't lose anything. And even when Balaram expanded, Balaram also didn't lose anything. So that's kind of Prabhupada is mentioning here, that it is spiritual. When he said spiritual, that's what he mentioned. The other important thing Prabhupada mentioned, which I think we should know, all of us, when Mayavadi philosophy, or like Muslims, when they say that God is formless, it means that God doesn't have the material form, but God has the, or Krishna has, I should not say God, Krishna has the spiritual form, not the material form. When it says, and Prabhupada mentioned about that from last in one of the Upanishad, in Shastra Upanishad 3.19, Apani pada jabano grohit, like here no legs or hands. That means Krishna doesn't have any material. Then nothing is matter here. Everything is spiritual. So everything is shot. Means they are not going to be perishable. They're not going to be destroyed. So that's, and then Prabhupada also mentioned from the Kathopanishad, Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetanam, Eko Bahunam Jobidadhati Kam. So from all these things, we can understand that Krishna is the absolute. Even he manifests, expands himself so many ways, but his absoluteness it is not anything decreased, or he is not losing anything. We see that in the pastimes, in Brahma's pastime, Brahma Mohan Lila, where Krishna expanded himself, all the coward boys and all the calves, and he did that pastimes 1 year. But there was nothing like, it is not like his original pastime with the coward boy, everything reduced, or he was as usual before. Prabhu, please correct or add.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So the Supreme Lord Krishna, in the absolute truth, this is from the previous verse, is Bhagavan, right? I'm just quoting some Sanskrit terms as Chit Aishwarya Paripurna, full with all the spiritual opulences. Chit Aishwarya, all the Aishwaryas, Paripurna means in full capacity, full quantity. And Anurdhva Samana, Anurdhva. Urdhva means higher, someone who's higher than him. Urdhva. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha. There is no one who can surpass him. Nor he has anyone equal. One and only. That's Krishna. And in this particular verse, the Supreme Lord and all his, any attribute of his, whether it's his body, holy name, his paraphernalia, everything about the Supreme Lord is spiritual. There's a bhajan also. Venu Madhura Pado Madhura. Right? His Murli is very sweet. His lotus feet are very sweet. His smile is very sweet. His laughter is sweet. His holy name is sweet. His devotees are sweet. His His entourage is sweet. His friends are sweet. Everything, his holy dham is so madhura or so spiritual. Satchidananda, Chintamani. It's all transcendental. Janma karma cha me divyam. It's all divine or spiritual. So what that means, then we should also handle it in a very sacred way. So I want to bring our attention to the Vaishnava etiquette manual. Since bhakti is a good blend of philosophy, what's the use of philosophy without practical application? So honoring Nirmalya. Nirmalya means the remnants of the Supreme Lord and other sacred items. So Krishna is non-different from his paraphernalia, right? Very, very important. So treating Krishna's paraphernalia badly means to treat Krishna badly. Very simple. Because they're not different. True bhakti will not appear in our hearts. We have to be conscious of these items, that they are not ordinary, but they're used in Krishna's service, therefore they're worshipable. Now, anything, Mahaprasad, Nirmalya, Charanamrit, Tulsi leaves, Prasadam, all these things, bead bag, DT plate, DT paraphernalia, anything connected to Krishna, basically. Tadiya Samarchanam. One should treat with great respect. One should not step over, one should not just throw them, one should not touch with dirty hands, one should not put them on the floor or unclean place, not toss them, right? Carefully handle them. Flowers, maha garland, one should be careful, right? This is the famous story of Indra comes here, right? Indra gave it to his driver, Eravat, right? And he trampled over them, and then that's as a result, he lost everything. Charanamrit, one should handle very sacredly. Ghee lamp, DT cloth, DT Mahaprasad, everything in short, books, kartal, drum, bead bag, etc. All these things, Harinam Chadar, one should be careful in short. So back to this verse. Okay. A common question which may come, why do Mayavadis don't believe in the personal understanding of God? Any thoughts? Why they don't believe? Why they don't have faith, or why they don't believe in the personal aspect of God? Anyone?
Right. So they do not have the realization, the love they do not have for the Lord. They do not have prema bhakti. Whatever they think about Gan Yog, with the knowledge
They don't understand only through, maybe they don't have association of good devotees who tell them, okay, or they don't have bhakti, okay. What else? Any other thoughts?
Prabhupada mentioned here that Mayavadi philosophers, they think materialistically. They cannot differentiate between the spiritual and material, because they think materialistically, they think that if Krishna expands, then he is going to lose. Like, just an example, like we have a bowl of milk, and we take the milk, a cup of milk from that. So original bowl of the milk is going to be less. So that's but at the same time, if we think that a candle, if we take a candle and there are other candles, same, if we light all the candles, the original candle from which we are lighting, it is not going to be losing is anything. Losing is giving that capacity of giving the light. It's kind of like that kind of differentiation. Mayavadi has a problem in that. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning here.
Very nice. I was hearing, one time from His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj, who elaborated on this topic, as Prem Sankirtan Prabhu is mentioning and quoting Prabhupada. We are so conditioned to use our tiny head for everything, is it not? We are so conditioned to use our tiny head to understand. But we forget to understand that we cannot understand. There are a lot of things, what to speak of transcendental things. There are even a lot of material things we cannot understand. Like, who has seen protons, neutrons? We all believe in that. Who has seen so many, vaccinations people take, so many things? Who has seen what's going on? People go to a restaurant, they eat something. Who has seen what they do to make, what their ingredients they are putting? So we are used to thinking from our tiny head. So what the Mayavadis, they're primarily based on using their understanding, right? Trying to understand God through speculative knowledge, right? Like devotees understand through bhakti, so Mayavadis understand through speculation, which is full of faults, right? Tendency to make mistakes, tendency to be illusion, imperfect senses, and so many challenges. We cannot even understand matter properly. What to speak of transmatter or transcendental subjects. So what they conclude based on their speculative understanding that, oh, God must be something different. You and I have a lifespan, right? My grandfather had a lifespan. My uncle had a lifespan. They are gone. And I will be gone. And you are saying God is also a person? So God will be gone too. Then what's the difference between me and God? God must be something who is beyond this. So therefore, he does not have form like you and I. Right? So they think, oh, God is beyond this. And therefore God does not. Oh, you and I have qualities, you and I have hands and legs. If God is also like this, then what's the difference? Therefore, God is not a person. That's how they come to this conclusion, because my body is perishable, my body is prone to wrinkles, my body is prone to headache, and adi bhautik, adi devik, adi atmik kaleshas. But and they find some verses also like nirguna, like he does not have feet, he does not have legs. So they focus on see, our understanding is correct because the Shvetashwar Upanishad says that. Oh, here it says nirguna, perfect. That's what we were looking for, right? But they fail to understand that when it is mentioned as nirguna or nirupa, we are referring to that his rupa is not like you and I. Our rupa, our form is made up of panchabhuta, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the subtle elements. But his form is Satchit Anand Vigraha. So that part they miss, the bhakti understand. So when we say Nirupa or Nirguna, it's referring to that he does not have material form. But they kind of completely, oh, God, no form, no qualities, no form. And therefore someone brings the idea, oh, God means mountains are his eyes, sun and moon are his eyes, like Virat Rupa. They believe more in that. That kind of gives them, oh, that's something great. God means, see, there must be something, beyond all this. Sun and moon are his eyes. Oh, yeah, that we can maybe have something. But again, a devotee is not interested, as Arjuna also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, in the Virat Rupa understanding. He's more Sham Sundar Roop, right? Murli Manohara, Radha Sham Sundar. Hmm? He's interested in that form, the sweet two-handed form of the Lord. So that's a big difference between the Mayavadi and what His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj was explaining. It really struck me at that time, because this is the reason they don't want to believe in that. So, in short, we cannot understand Godhead through our tiny head, right? So we have to understand through Bhakti scriptures and Bhakti acharyas, Bhakti Vedantas, right? Those who have understood the right tattva, the right bona fide teachers, evam parampara praptam, not through our process is a descending process, avaroha path. We are not trying to get aroha path, like gradually through speculative knowledge, one here, one there, and trying to join and trying to understand. That's not our process. Our process is God comes in the forefront. Krishna comes in the forefront. I mean, day one, someone comes to Iskcon, they'll hear the word Krishna maybe 10 times. Any other comments, thought? Is it okay? Is it making sense, or is it too complex? Okay, let's read one more verse. Would someone like to read text 113? Let's see, it's okay, it's a fairly long purport, but let's try to complete. So we can have 2-3 devotees read this if you would like to read.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Verse was this? Okay, 113. Yeah. Sorry, it's not that big. Maybe I flipped too fast and yeah, 113. Let's read. Please, Mataji.
Siddhanando tehu tar sthano porivar, tare kahe prakrito shakti rupikar. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of spiritual potencies. Therefore, his body, name, fame, and entourage are all spiritual. The Mayavadi philosopher, due to ignorance, says that these are all merely transformations of the material mode of goodness. Purport. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has classified his energies into distinct divisions, namely Prakrita and Aprakrita, or Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. In the Vishnu Puran, the same distinction is made. The Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand these two Prakritis. Sorry, the screen is going away. These two Prakritis or natures, material and spiritual, but one who is actually intelligent can understand them. Considering the many varieties and activities in material nature, why should the Mayavadi philosophers deny the spiritual varieties of the spiritual world? The Bhagavatam 10.2.32 says, Ye Ravindaksha Vimukta Maninas Tvaye Asta Bhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya. The intelligence of those who think themselves liberated but have no information of the spiritual world is not yet clear. In this verse, the term Avishuddha Buddhaya refers to unclean intelligence. Due to unclean intelligence or a poor fund of knowledge, the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand the distinction between material and spiritual varieties. Therefore, they cannot even think of spiritual varieties because they take it for granted that all variety is material. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore explains in this verse that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Absolute Truth, has a spiritual body that is distinct from material bodies, and thus his name, abode, entourage, and qualities are all spiritual. The material mode of goodness has nothing to do with spiritual varieties. Mayavadi philosophers, however, cannot clearly understand spiritual varieties. Therefore, they imagine a negation of the material world to be the spiritual world. The material qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance cannot act in the spiritual world, which is therefore called nirguna. As clearly indicated in the Bhagavad Gita, Traiguna Vishaya Veda Nistrai Guno Bhavarjuna. The material world is a manifestation of the three modes of material nature, but one has to become free from these modes to come to the spiritual world, where their influence is completely absent. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will disassociate Lord Shiva from Mayavad philosophy in the following verse. Back to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
For reading this verse. Who would like to share what you learned or what was your take home from this verse? Anyone would like to share some thoughts or lessons? Okay, I'll ask a question. Why do Mayavadis negate variety? Okay. Why do the Mayavadis negate variegatedness or variety? Tough question. We covered in the previous verse also, right? Basically, material world is such a place of suffering, correct? And because of the conditioning which we have been, if someone tells us there is a place of unlimited joy, where there is absolutely zero suffering and just pure unalloyed bliss, it will be very hard to comprehend at first, especially if we don't have faith in that person. It's someone telling, you don't have to work, you don't have to do all the hard work, go to job and, struggle at your work, politics and this and that, do 10 hours of so much painful task. You can just chant and dance and eat gulab jamuns, right? And that's what Prabhupada did. This is spiritual. Now, this is spiritual variegatedness. This is spiritual. This is apara, as we are reading here, right? The para and the apara. What does para and apara mean? As per chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, who's going to share? Para
So,
prakriti, apara prakriti.
Krishna is saying, para is bhumi apanala vayu khama mano buddhi revacha. Ahankara ityamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. He is saying bhumi means earth, bhumi apa, earth, water, fire, sound and air, and plus mind, intelligence and ego, false ego. Ahankaram ityam. Those, and that next verse he was saying, aparayam itastuinam. So there is another apara, that is in jiva bhuta mahabaho jayadam dharayate jagat. that opera, there's the living entity, and they kind of exploit the other. So that's in the 7th chapter verse. So here Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that one, that both of the, but one is material and the other one is living entity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's mentioned in text 7.4, I believe. Yeah, 7.4 and 5 in chapter 7. So, two important verses about the external, or also called as external energy, internal energy also, or material energy, spiritual energy, para prakriti, apara prakriti, referring to the same inferior. The jivas are referred as the superior energy here, right? And then this long purport also. So the point is that yes, there is variety. Spiritual world is full of variety. Prabhupada says variety adds to sweetness. Like imagine a dish which has just some salt and maybe a little pepper. Will we like it? Will it be tasteful? Right? No. It's bland, right? Just put some salt and every day eat potato and salt every day. Does anyone like it? No. Maybe one time it's okay, twice it's okay. Same with offering garland to the deities. Same yellow flowers. Yellow flowers day 1, day 2, day 3, all days, 365 days, yellow flower. I mean, there's nothing wrong, but variety adds to flavor, and that adds to sweetness. It adds to love. It adds to beauty. Krishna has so many rasas to enjoy. Even an ordinary person, a rich person, sometimes, he may have a sports car. He may have like an off-roader truck, right? Or he may have one bungalow where he just likes, like, what do you call, like, off country, like, what do you call that? Just to like be in quiet, maybe in some off
Countryside.
some like village setting. And he may have a one big mansion in downtown, right? Or he may have, so even a rich person of this world may have so many sources of variety. It's not that he's eating the same food every day, right? So even in this world, we see so much variegatedness, although that's all material. But in spiritual world, it's all transcendental. The Mayavadis are fed up. Mayavadis are fed up with variegatedness. They deny spiritual variety. Because they feel ultimately it's all Maya, right? They feel it's all a product of material nature. They cannot understand it is apara. It is all spiritual. His body is spiritual. His name is spiritual. As we go back to this verse, text 113. Chidananda teno tar sthana parivar tar kohe prakritas satvera vikara. His personality, Tara, Sthana, his abode, his parivar, friends, parents, entourage. Tara kahe prakrita satvera vikara. What do they say? Oh, it's just a product of goodness. No, it's not goodness. It is Satchit Ananda. It is Shuddha Sattva. It is pure goodness, or Shuddha, or it is Divya, spiritual, transcendental. It is beyond these modes. It is not a product of these modes. Rather, all the products, all the material modes come from him. Devi, Shagunamai mam maya duratya mamevya prapadyante maya metam tarantite. He is the cause of all the things. What is that verse which comes? I believe it's 9.4. Yes. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani nacha ham teshav avasthitaha. By me in my unmanifested forms, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So everything comes from him, but he is not there. I mean, he is always in his transcendental spiritual abode. So he's not a product of goodness. Rather, goodness, passion, ignorance come from him. So beautiful verse again talks about the variegatedness of the Supreme Lord. And once we step up, or we transcend, we rise up from ignorance, passion, goodness to the Shuddha Sattva, then only we can understand. We have to get to that level, like through the bhakti process, and that's what we are trying to be, to purify ourselves, to understand, to remove our darkness, to remove our lust, anger, greed, and then so the natural love towards God can be rekindled. Any other thoughts, comments, additions, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji very nicely discussed about this Mayavadi's philosophy, how they are wrong. And they also says that Brahma Shutto Jagat Mitha, means they think, as you said, that this material world is all Maya. So, and as Prabhupada says, they have lack of knowledge. That's why they cannot distinguish between material world and spiritual world. So that's why they're thinking material world is not real. It's Jagat Mitha, means material world is it's not exists. But it is exists. It's a temporary. It is temporary, but it exists. And so that's why they also think that spiritual world also it's not real. So that's that way also we can explain, right, Prabhuji? Because they do not know how to distinguish between this material and spiritual. And as I said, material is also mitha, jagat mitha. So they also think that spiritual world also lie. So one Prabhuji in another class, he commented that as Mayavadi says, Brahma Shatto Jagat Mitha, means this world is not real. That means what you are saying, that is also Mitha. So that's why he was telling, like, what you are saying, that's also Mitha. That's also not true.
Yes. Very nice, Mataji. Thank you. And that's why their whole philosophy is get out of here. Now go where? Get out of. This is a place of problem. Like our main philosophy is not get out of the suffering, right? Mora e bhilash vilas kunche diyo. Our goal is to engage in the positive. Mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhaktir ahetukitvat. We are aspiring for devotional service, whether in this world or anywhere, heaven or hell. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana vibhadyati swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulya darshinaha. They do not, heaven or hell doesn't matter to them. They are only whether become a dog, but become a dog in the house of a devotee, so I can take the remnants of the Supreme Lord and I can serve the devotee. That's the aspiration for a bhakta. But Mayavadi, no. Get out of this place. Go where? Brahma Jyoti. So, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I guess then we will pause here and continue later. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Mahashaya ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha, Yudanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.